Hey everyone, welcome back to another Web Dev Junkie video. So I wanted to give you another update on this NFT-Magic application I've been working on. I haven't really made too much progress, but I figured I'd just share some of the things I've kind of changed since the last video. Honestly, I don't remember what I talked about in the last video, so I could just be repeating myself. But I got to get that content published so you guys can like and subscribe and all that other stuff. So let me just go ahead and share with you what I've been kind of working on. So the first thing I worked on is I need a way to basically deploy the UI. If you remember, I have an UI created with Next.js right here, and right now I need to basically publish that somewhere. I like using Amazon Web Services, and more specifically, I like using CloudFront, which is a CDN where you can basically publish your static assets, and that's going to be distributed across the globe where users can download your website. And I also like using, the S3 CloudFront setup. But let me just show you how you can do that with serverless real quick, because everything in this project is using serverless. Let me just go over here. So if I look at the UI project, I added the serverless YAML file, and all this file does is I basically create two resources. If you scroll down here, I have a website resource, which basically is an S3 bucket where all the static assets are going to be copied into, right? And once you've created that bucket, you can create another resource called a CloudFront distribution. This is the thing that points to that bucket, grabs all your static assets, and serves it on the internet. So honestly, I copied all this code from a GitHub, a gist I found online, or a GitHub project. You can basically configure this to kind of do different things. For example, you can change the response codes or the error codes and the redirect path. Some of the stuff you actually need to get set up if you want to do a single page application or a Next.js deployment. So I have that, and then I also added a deploy sh script. So if we look at this script, all this does is run that serverless deploy, which is going to create the CloudFront distribution, the bucket, and update them if they've changed. And then we run npm builds. So what npm build does is it takes all of my React components or my Next components, and it creates static assets out of them. So if I look at the npm build step, look at my package.json, you'll see I have a build command here, which runs next build, which will create a .next folder and kind of put all the built next related things in that folder. And then I have a next export, which takes the .next folder and creates an out folder. So when you run that command, you can basically take all the contents of that out folder and you can push it to S3, which is what I'm doing here. You can see I'm doing an AWS S3 sync. I'm saying take the out folder and sync it to that bucket that we created. That is basically all you have to do to deploy it to Amazon. You could use Amazon Amplify if you wanted to, but honestly, I like doing things the old-fashioned way with actually, deploying Amazon resources using some type of infrastructure as code tool, but it's really up to you. So after I run that deploy command, it basically publishes all that to a URL where I can actually access. I don't know what the URL is because I haven't hooked up an actual domain name to it, but it's some like randomly generated URL that you can actually go and verify your site's working. But I just wanted to get all that set up for when I do get a domain. It's really easy for me to deploy stuff out. So that's the main thing. The first thing I've been kind of working on. The next thing I worked on a lot of is I added more testing. So like I've been saying in other videos, testing is by far the most important way to build quality software. If you don't have enough tests, it's very easy to break your code. So I want to make sure that along the way of this project, I'm adding tests and making sure that most of my functions have at least some type of unit test over them. So let me just go ahead and share that with you. If I go back to the code here, inside of the Minter, I added another test file for my unzipper. So the unzipper, if you remember in previous videos, basically takes the zip file the user uploaded and unzips all of the contents and puts that content into a separate unminted bucket, right? So all the images and metadata are basically pushed to a separate bucket so that we can process them at a later time. And this logic actually does, or this code actually did quite a lot of logic, okay? I did a ton of cleanup in this file to make it easier to read, and it kind of reads more like a story now. Basically, you get the uploaded file stream, you unzip it to a directory, you get the files in that directory, you loop over the files and make sure that they have the proper extensions, you loop over the files again and make sure they all the images have a corresponding metadata file, and then I loop over all of the images and metadata and I push those to an S3 bucket, and then finally I create an entry in DynamoDB. So I don't know if you remember the code that was there before, if I even shared it, but this code is a lot cleaner. And the thing that allowed me to refactor this code was by writing a unit test. So I brought in Jest, I wrote a bunch of unit tests over this code. I'm mocking out all of those IO dependencies, such as reading from S3, publishing the S3, writing the disk, reading from disk, unzipping from the disk. And I'm writing a bunch of test cases to basically verify that when I call this method, it should download the zip from S3, and it should also extract the zip into a folder. And then it should also throw an error if there's an issue with that zip file, et cetera, et cetera. So I have all these test cases written so that if I come back to this file and I change some code, I can just run the test suite by doing like npm run test, and that'll tell me what I broke. So that's really like the second thing I've been working on. And the third thing is giving me a lot of grief. I can't figure this out. So going back to this diagram, I've been running into a lot of issues with this IPFS whole setup here. So basically, when I'm running all of these Lambdas in parallel, they are kind of just data dumping a ton of files onto this whole DigitalOcean VM, which is causing my API to basically break. So this is a major concern for me because I don't want my API to like crash when I'm trying to upload IPFS files. So what I might do is I might actually just delete this whole thing and use a third-party service like Pinata, or there's one called NFT. I don't know what it's called, but it's like a free service where you can actually upload NFTs. So I might use that, or I might use a combination of them because they have a rate limiting on their API that only allows you to do like 60 a minute, which is kind of slow, versus if I have my own and I maybe scale this up a little bit, I could do as many as I want. So I'm trying to kind of figure out like what is the best way going forward, because I've seen tons of errors happen where I'm just pushing too many files to this API and it causes my whole process to kind of lock up. I'm also seeing a ton of issues when trying to mint larger zips. So I've tried making a NFT zip file that has about 200 images. And when I upload that zip file, Lambda is going to spin up a ton of runners and just try to like shove as much data to the Polygon network, which causes a huge issue because I don't know what happens behind the scenes with the Truffle HT wallet. I think they just hit like a service behind the scenes. Maybe, I don't know what the service is called, but they probably have some type of rate limiting setup, which I'm kind of going over. So I need to kind of rethink this whole approach here and make it more like split out. So I plan to make a Lambda that just is responsible for uploading the image metadata and also uploading the image, right? So that Lambda just does that. And when that Lambda is done, what it's going to do is publish an event to this queue up here, which is going to get picked up by the minting Lambda. The minting Lambda is just going to do one thing. It's going to say, call the mint function on my contract and make sure that we mint this NFT. So if this thing fails, which I've seen this thing fail for random reasons, I don't really know why, and I'm trying to figure out, which is one reason why I'm just getting really burned out on this project, because it's like a hard bug to figure out, and there's not many resources out there explaining this issue. A really cool thing you can do with Lambda and SQS queues is you can basically say, I need you to retry up to 10 times if an event fails. So you can basically say, try to mint this NFT 10 times, and if for whatever reason it keeps failing, push it to a dead letter queue so I can process it or kind of inspect it at a later time. So that's what I've been kind of bashing my head against the wall. I haven't even worked on any of this stuff over here. Like, I'm just saving this for last because it's not that important. This is the most important part of the system right here, and it's not working really well. So I need to figure out how to basically solve this issue. But yeah, that's all I really have to show with you in this video. I didn't really do too much other than add some tests, refactor some code, and try to deploy the UI, and also try to figure out a solution for a bug I'm getting because I'm not really experienced with doing Polygon or Solidity programming. So if you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up because it helps my channel grow. Also, if you're new to this channel, be sure to press that subscribe and bell icon because I'm going to be publishing other parts of this series that should hopefully help you learn more about building out systems and becoming a better web developer. And like always, be sure to leave a comment below if you have any features or things that you want seen in these series. I can kind of explain anything or go back. I don't mind going back and explaining anything I've done and just kind of teach you all what I've been doing along the way. So yeah, happy coding. Have a good day.